Hi everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So a couple of months ago I did a video that did extremely well about how to foil with a laminator, and I mentioned in that video that I wasn't going to get a Mink. Well, unfortunately I got one, and I don't mean unfortunately as in I got one. I'm very fortunate to have been able to get one. I got it at a really good price and it was for my birthday, so I'm very happy to have it. But what I thought I would do is I would do a bit of a comparison, a bit of an introduction to the Mink first, and then a comparison against the laminator to see if it was really worth it. Obviously, I've already got it, so I'm not going to get rid of it. But just to see for you guys if it was actually worth it, what the difference is between foiling, and if you should go and get one yourself. So if you're interested in a little bit more information about the Mink and how it compares with just a normal laminator, then just stay tuned. Okay, so when you get it out of the box, you get this. Now, I got the big size, so this is the regular size Mink. They have a Minc Mini, which does an A4, which is a little bit more comparable in size to your normal laminator. This can obviously do 12 by 12 pages. So if you're a scrapbooker, if you're someone that likes to do things on a bit more grander scale, I would recommend getting this one over the Mini. The reason I got this one was because it wasn't on sale. It was discounted at the time, so it did have a discount attached. I think it came down from $199. I think it had $40 off, so it came down to $149. And then I had one of those $50 voucher if you spend over $100 from Spotlight, so it came down to $109.95, including and then I paid like $20 postage. And I bought it up. I got postage because unfortunately none of the stores around me had stock in, so I decided it was just easier for them to post it to me than for me to go and chase it. Did it have postage or did it include postage? It may have been including postage because it may have been like if you spend over $100 you get free postage. I'm not quite sure. I know this cost me $109.95, so that's compared to $199.95. I think I did really well. The other thing that you get in here, and just excuse the dog hair that's over everything in my office, you get 2 of the large laminating pouches and then 1 of the small ones. I'll talk a little bit more about the laminating pouches as we go through because I do have a slight issue with these. So the machine itself is just, it is a glorified, much bigger laminating machine. That's it. If you've got an A3 laminating machine, this is going to be basically exactly what it is on the surface. What it does have that a normal laminator doesn't have is the ability to change the settings. So you can see here you've got your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To foil different materials, you need to use different settings. So if you're using a no heat foil transfer, so if you're using not the heat foil that Heidi Swapp sells that you get from Spotlight, if you're using a no heat transfer, then you would use one, and that's just pressure. So that's just pushing it through, pressurizing it down, and it will stick. If you're doing them on glassine bags, so little plastic bags, or printed overlays, then you go up to number 1. If you're using just a lightweight coated paper or vellum or any glossy stickers, you use number 2. If you're using just normal paper or a little bit heavier, so sort of somewhere between paper and cardboard, then you use 3. If you're using 4, then you go up, that's cardstock and cardboard, and then 5 is if you're using chipboard. So you can put an array of different materials through this and get good results. Now I'm not going to, number 1 I haven't, and number 2 I'm not going to use all the different materials. I'm just going to show you guys on plain paper because that's the only thing I can compare to the laminator. So I've just brought my Lowell laminator in just so you guys can see how much extra that is. Like it's pretty easy when I say it's 12 by 12, but just so you can get a really good view of it. This obviously doesn't have any other heat settings other than hot and cold. So that's the major difference at this point, is that this can obviously heat up more or less depending on what you're using, which I think will give you better results. I don't know 100% yet. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn them both on, and I'm going to put something through. I'm going to go off and print something and bring it back, and we're going to send both of them through the laminator using the laminator and the Mink, using the same kind of foil, the same kind of paper out of the same printer, and see what happens. so Ryan's just gone and printed two exactly the same squares on actually it was on one piece of paper and then I cut it in half. So I've turned both the Mink and the laminator on. One thing I've noticed here is that the Mink, to go up to level 3, which I know isn't the highest setting, but is certainly halfway, I'll go with that. It took probably a third of the time. This took a really long time to warm up, probably about 3 minutes. This probably took about a minute. There you go, look, my maths is great, even without trying. So they're both done, they're both heated up and ready to go. So I'm just gonna move them to either side of my desk here without completely cutting myself off with cords. So I'm gonna sort of work like this so you guys can still see everything coming in and out, sort of. So I've got a couple of bits of gold, string hanging around. I've got gold Mink foil. So this is just the Mink foil that you can get from Spotlight. It's the Heidi Swapp stuff, so it's designed to go with the Mink. Just checking it, that's enough. Just gonna cut off a little bit of the excess because we don't need to waste it. So I've got both of them in there. Now, the folders that come with it are great as long as you cover up everything you've got. And what I meant before was my little issue. So I don't know if you guys can see that very well. I'll just grab a piece of white paper. So I've kind of got some transfer of the ink when I was doing my save the date cards for the wedding. Because I didn't cover it all up, because I didn't foil everything on the page, it sort of transferred over a little bit, which is really annoying, but is what happened. So unfortunately I've now got it stuck there. I don't know if it makes a difference. I don't even know if it will eventually fade. At this point, I'm just having to deal with the fact that it's there. So I'm going to use the small size one. I want to keep this as even a test as I possibly can, which means I'm going to use the same folder for both. The only thing that's obviously going to be a slight difference is that this will be warmed up the second time. So what I'm going to do to give that a bit of an advantage, I'm going to give the laminator the teensy little bit of advantage by having the folder have already gone through the laminator. I don't know if that makes a difference. I'm assuming it won't, but let's just give it a go. So we're going to stick this through. I'm not using any other pages or any other paper through there to kind of be an extra piece of the sandwich. Like, to protect this pocket before, what I did was covered it up with white paper, which stopped it transferring any more than it already had. I'm not using any of those extra aids to sort of help me along here, so hopefully it still works. It will. I have tried this a couple of times, like just with the laminate, just with the Mink on my save the date cards, and they've come out really nicely. But it will just be interesting to see them side to side or side by side and kind of decide if this is worth it or not. So this is nearly done. Pull that out. I'm not going to lift it up. I can see already that that has done a really good job. And I'm just going to write Mink on the side here, just so I know which is which. I will say that's not warm at all, so I don't think it'll make any difference to it for the purposes of this test. Just putting that on again. There we go. And then we'll put it through the laminator the exact same way we just put it through the Mink. Alright, so I've just turned them both off and moved them over to the side just so we don't have that humming noise while we're doing this. So Ryan has just mentioned that it's probably a good idea just to point out that these are both like full size squares. They're not very detailed, they're not very intricate. So what I'm going to do is if these look basically exactly the same, I'm going to print out something else that's a little bit more intricate and do that whole process again and show you guys the results. Just because I want to be able to show you as much as I can. Chances of you ever foiling a whole square like this is pretty slim. I don't think it's ever going to be just like that, as in you're not going to foil anything like that all the time, but letters and things like that you might. So I just want to make sure I give you guys the best review I can Already looking at this, I can see that this is pushed in a lot more, as in it looks like it has stuck better to the page. This looks a little bit more flimsy, so we'll pull off the Mink first. I'm going to give them just both a little bit of a rub, just because when I did the last one, a lot of people said that that was a really good tip, and also to let them cool down a little bit. So that was why I've been talking to you for a couple of seconds while we let them cool. So we'll grab hold of this one. And that is just about perfect. So if you look at the other side here, there's no little bits left over. It's a little tinsy bit at the top, but not very much. Compare that to the laminator. There we go, yeah. So not that that doesn't look cool, because I think it does. I've said when I did it the first time, I really liked that effect actually. Show you what was left over there as well. So you got the little bit left over as well. That's your sort of, on a very simple shape, that's the difference you're getting between the laminator and the Mink. So the Mink definitely wins this test hands down. It depends what kind of results you're going for. I'm not going to do the intricate one because it's going to come up basically the same, I think. I did use the Mink to do a part of my wild and free decoration, and I did find that it wasn't 100% perfect on the lettering. I don't know if that was because I had the setting down too low. I have been fiddling with it a bit since then. I may have had the setting down too low for that one, so it's all a bit of trial and error. The benefit of the Mink is that you can try and error. You can change your settings to try and get a better result. Whereas obviously with the laminator, you can't make it any hotter than it already is. That's it. That's as hot as it's going to get and as good as it's going to get. So you can't alter that. I guess coming down to, do I think it's worth it? It depends on how much you foil, how much you want to foil. If you want to foil everything you've got, I'm going to say go with the Mink, because it's going to foil a bigger space to start with. So if you wanted to make like foil stickers, for example, you could send through nearly 2 sheets of A4 paper, nearly, not quite, but nearly 2 sheets of A4 paper through the Mink at once, and you're going to get a good result each time. This one, you can obviously, with a laminator, you're only going to get A4, and they're going to be different every single time. They're never going to look exactly the same as this, whereas you're going to get almost exactly the same as this one most of the time. There's obviously also going to be a little bit of variant between the different kinds of foil that you use, even between colors. I've noticed that the gold is a little bit better than, say, the silver holographic. There's just a little bit of a difference between the two, even from the same brand, so just be aware of that as well. Ryan asked before, can you use the Mink as a laminator? Yes, you can. I've laminated something and it came through fine. If you're someone that uses the foiling a lot, like if you want to use it all the time, if you're going to use it in cards and things like that, I'm going to recommend going for the Mink. But for what I'm using it for, I think I would have been fine with the laminator. Like I said at the start, I have it now. I'm not going to get rid of it. I got a really good deal on it. For the $100 I spent on it, I think that's fine. I think if you can get it for $100, go for it. It's going to make you very, very happy, because, hello, can you say gorgeous? But it's going to give you consistent results, whereas your laminator is going to be a little bit more inconsistent. If you have to pay the $200 for it, I think wait till it comes on sale, because it will drop down, and Spotlight have discount codes all the time. So I guess my final review is, if you can get it for $100, go for it. If you can't, if you have to you really need to have it right now and it's still the $199, maybe wait, maybe get the laminator. These things, like, you can get them from Big W for $30, Kmart for $30, and even if they only last you 6 months, that's still pretty darn good. This one's lasted me nearly 4 years, so go for your life. So that is it for my overall thoughts on it, and for my Mink versus laminated comparison. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Like I said at the start, my other video I wouldn't go viral, but for me it did. So thank you to everybody who watched that one and who commented and who liked it. I've never had a video do that before, so thank you very, very much for that. I hope you enjoyed this little follow-up one. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you're thinking of getting a Mink now based on the performance of the two side by side. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and you can follow me on any of my social medias to stay more in touch with me. Hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you again really, really soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.